Epic versus Apple. The legal battle rages on, ladies and gentlemen. This was all kickstarted back in August of 2020 when Epic intentionally offered a new direct payment in Fortnite that circumvented the iOS's 30% cut. Obviously, that pissed off Apple. They didn't like that and kicked Fortnite off of the App Store. Epic knew this was going to happen, did it on purpose so they could use this as an excuse to issue a lawsuit saying that doing so is unlawful, trying to declare Apple a monopoly, that they're violating antitrust laws, that they should allow for developers to link to alternate, more direct forms of payment in the app, that other app stores should be allowed in this operating system, so on and so forth. They released this video when the lawsuit was issued, essentially asking gamers to rise up in support of Epic, and it's been since then months and months of legal battle that has led to some deliberations, though again, there's going to be appeals and this is still going to go on. But as detailed by Jason Schreier here, both companies came out of this scarred, though Epic definitely lost more, significantly more than Apple did. The courts ruled against Epic on all accounts, but one, and it's a key one, that Apple must allow app developers to include links to external payment methods like a website that allows people to directly purchase, not through the App Store, but through the developer's own payment methods. But Epic has been forced to pay Apple a sum in the millions, 30% of this revenue that Epic generated through the direct payment that they implemented before the lawsuit. And it was also declared that Apple's termination of Fortnite and Epic's account and all these things, that was lawful, that Epic did breach Apple's policies. And so Apple has not been mandated to allow Fortnite to return to iOS, to the App Store. That's entirely up to Apple. And that's information that'll play a key role in today's story, which I'll get to in a bit. But yeah, it was declared that in the submarket of mobile gaming that this case tackles, Apple is not in fact a monopoly. They're not mandated to allow other app stores. They're not mandated to lower the 30% cut. So most of the key things that Epic wanted out of this case, they did not get. But the whole situation has been damaging for optics for both Apple and Epic, especially with all of the emails that have gotten out there as mandated by the court and what that revealed about the aggressive business strategies, the cutthroat nature of these businesses. Now, Epic is appealing and the court battle no doubt will ensue, which ties into today's story as Tim Sweeney has taken to Twitter to further detail the losses that Epic has incurred from all this. Jason Schreier retweeted Tim Sweeney's Twitter thread, stating once again the recent Epic versus Apple ruling was a big loss for Epic, and here are the consequences. So let's check out what Tim Sweeney tweeted here on September 22nd, 2001. The first tweet reads, Apple lied. Apple spent a year telling the world, the court, and the press that welcome Epic's return to the App Store if they agreed to play by the same rules as everyone else. Epic agreed, and now Apple has reneged in another abuse of its monopoly power over 1 billion users. So Tim Sweeney here is trying to present the narrative that Apple went back on their word. They previously said that when we do decide to abide by Apple's rules, that Fortnite would be allowed back in. We have decided to comply with their rules, and now they're coming back and saying we don't want Fortnite back on our store, which goes against what they previously promised. But if you ask me, it's hardly surprising that Apple would reject Fortnite at this stage, especially when Epic is appealing and when they're still engaged in a legal battle, when Epic is still causing trouble for Apple. And given how much trouble Epic, Fortnite, and Tim Sweeney have caused for Apple by dragging them into court, it's been negative for PR. It's cost them financially. The court's ruling that apps must allow developers to link to external sources of payment. All that's caused quite a bit of damage. So yeah, Apple wouldn't be enthusiastic about having Fortnite back on iOS. But Tim Sweeney's saying, well, they did say one thing before and now they're saying something else. And then he continued with this tweet: just last week, Epic agreed with Apple that we would play by the same rules as everyone else. So after the court's ruling, Tim Sweeney sent this email: "Hi Phil, I'm writing to provide clarity on where we stand. Epic has appealed the court's decision in our suit over Apple's policies on in-app purchase and competing stores. Though we can't update the Fortnite version that users still have on their iOS devices, we have disabled Epic payment server side and have paid Apple $6 million as ordered by the court." And when Tim Sweeney says disabled Epic payment server side, he's referring to that direct form of payment that circumvents the App Store 30% cut that got Fortnite banned from the App Store, and that kick-started this whole legal battle. Epic has asked Apple to reactivate our Fortnite development account. Epic promises that it will adhere to Apple's guidelines whenever and wherever we release products on Apple platforms. If we get the account back, we'll bring Fortnite back to Mac as soon as possible, and we'll reincorporate Fortnite for iOS in our Unreal Engine development and testing process, which will benefit all of our mutual developers. Whether Epic chooses to bring Fortnite back to iOS consumers depends on whether and where Apple updates its guidelines to provide for a level playing field between Apple in-app purchase and other methods of payment. So in these few paragraphs, Tim Sweeney's basically saying, when Fortnite does come back, we're not going to screw around and intentionally break guidelines anymore. We're going to follow the rules, but we will only decide to bring Fortnite back if you do what the court mandated by updating your guidelines to reflect the ruling that developers can provide links in the apps to external websites that would allow users to issue direct payments in a way that can circumvent Apple's 30% cut. Now, the thing about that is there's some argument as to whether this really was a truly major loss for Apple, that one key aspect of this case, given the language of what the court ruled and how that might potentially imply Apple can still collect a commission, a 30% cut, even if a purchase, an in-app purchase, is made outside of the App Store and in that more direct form via an external website or whatever link the developer provides. Bloomberg reported here, while the judge's ruling clearly states that Apple can no longer ban developers from pointing users to the web to complete transactions, bypassing the in-app purchase system, the ruling doesn't state outright that Apple cannot collect its commissions. That has led some observers to believe that Apple could still take its cut of revenue via other means. There's definitely a vagueness to the language of the court's rulings that doesn't paint a clear picture for what kinds of links are allowed, what the buttons in-app that link to other payment sources are allowed to do, and it's vague on whether Apple is still allowed to collect that commission even if users are taken outside of the App Store to finish an in-app purchase, though I would hope that that's not the case, as otherwise that just defeats the whole purpose of the ruling that developers are allowed to link to external payment sources. The whole point of that is to tell customers, hey, if you buy through our website here, the savings could potentially go to the customers as well, who might get a reduction in what they're paying for in price because the developers don't have to give Apple that cut, allowing them to lower prices and still make the same revenue. So until it is clarified what the court's intention was with this ruling, it's hard to say how hard of a blow this truly is for Apple. But if it does turn out that the court's intention was to make it so that developers, including links to external payment methods, don't have to pay Apple 30% if a purchase is made through that direct method, then it could cost Apple quite a bit of money in the long run. But yeah, after iterating the condition that Apple must update its guidelines to reflect the court's rulings, Tim Sweeney continued, Epic will resubmit Fortnite to the App Store if you adhere to the plain language of the court order and allow apps to include buttons and external links that direct customers to other purchasing mechanisms without onerous terms or impediments to a good user experience. In that case, our remaining dispute will be about competing stores, and I genuinely believe we could find common ground on the topic if Apple's position were based solely on user security and privacy rather than commercial interests. It absolutely is commercial interests. Who are we kidding here? Apple has always taken the stance that they don't allow other app stores and side-loading apps because that would be insecure for the users. But the bottom line is that allowing side-loading apps in other app stores would be detrimental to Apple's finances, as that would allow for more competition, which Apple doesn't want. Let's not kid ourselves here. Apple doesn't care about consumer security. They care about the money. Tim Sweeney then closes off with, as a provider of developer tools, Epic continues to support Apple platforms and our mutual developers wholeheartedly. If you have any questions or thoughts, I'm happy to talk. Tim Sweeney. So this is the email showing that Tim Sweeney has agreed to abide by Apple's policies from here on out. But then he added that last night Apple informed Epic that Fortnite will be blacklisted from the Apple ecosystem until the exhaustion of all court appeals, which could be as long as a 5-year-long process. For iOS users who are hoping that with the court's recent rulings that Apple and Epic could come to an accord that would allow Fortnite to come back, not happening. Apple is really pissed off with Epic, and they're really gonna make sure that Epic suffers for it. And only once all of the legal battles are over is when Apple may potentially consider allowing Fortnite back in, as long as Epic falls in line with their rules. And the response that Apple provided through their lawyer was this: Dear Gary, I'm responding to your recent request that Apple reinstate Epic's developer program account, which was terminated for cause last year. Epic committed an intentional breach of contract and breach of trust by concealing code from Apple and making related misinterpretations and omissions. In its decision, the court recognized that Apple had contractual rights to act as it did. It merely enforced those rights as Epic's own internal documents show Epic Games expected. The court further found that Apple's termination of the developer program license agreement and the related agreements between Epic Games and Apple was valid, lawful, and enforceable. Indeed, exactly what the courts ruled, and this quote is lifted directly from their ruling. Following that decision, Mr. Sweeney has publicly said that Epic wouldn't trade an alternative payment system away to get Fortnite back on iOS. In light of this and other statements since the court's decision, coupled with Epic's duplicitous conduct in the past, Apple has exercised its discretion not to reinstate Epic's developer program account at this time. Furthermore, Apple will not consider any further requests for reinstatement until the district court's judgment becomes final and non-appealable. Damn. So it basically comes down to, given the shit that you've said about us and the shit you've done to us, we have decided, nah, we don't feel like having Fortnite on our store right now. And maybe we'll consider it after all court proceedings have ended and we have finalized all of the rulings. But even then, there's no guarantee. And until the courts reverse certain rulings or rule differently in future cases, Apple is well within their rights to do this regardless of what they previously said or promised. Apple can change their minds and adhere to what's contractually obligated based on Epic and Apple's agreement. So yeah, this is a pretty ugly situation for Epic. Epic and Tim Sweeney were hoping that after getting banned from the App Store and after going through this legal battle, Apple would be mandated to bring Fortnite back to the App Store, but that didn't go their way, so they're going to lose quite a bit of money from the revenue that they're not going to make via the enormous user base of the iOS ecosystem. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars per year. As stated by The Verge here, in its first 2 years, the game, Fortnite, made $614 million on iOS alone, so roughly $300 million per year in its first 2 years, and then in Q4 of 2019, it still made a very solid $52.7 million. So that's a revenue source that won't be at Epic's and Tim Sweeney's disposal until all of the court appeals have been exhausted, however long that may ultimately end up taking. Now, on the flip side, Apple also does lose money because they would get 30% of revenue generated by Fortnite. Now, Apple isn't getting that, so Apple will also certainly be damaged by this, but I guess they don't deem the risk of having Epic and Fortnite on board, given all that's happened over the last year, what Apple perceives to be duplicitous actions on Epic's part. Apple deems it not worth the risk, or they're just going out of their way to punish Epic to show them what happens if you mess with Apple, maybe a bit of both. And with the potential of the court's ruling allowing for Epic to forego that 30% cut by implementing links to external websites where Epic can receive direct payment from Fortnite players, maybe that's something that Apple doesn't want Epic to benefit from, so they're keeping them away from the App Store. But regardless, Epic is definitely in a more precarious position right now. And time will tell how the appeals will go, how future rulings will go. We have witnessed the first major battle between the two, but as for who will win the war, if you will, in the long term, that remains to be seen. But for now, Epic's wounds and scars are deeper, and Epic's offense mostly didn't work. One bullet got in, and it was an important bullet that has some vague language surrounding it, but it's something. But ultimately, Epic's offense couldn't penetrate Apple's defenses effectively, and they couldn't achieve most of the key things that they set out to do. But that's the latest on Apple versus Epic, and this is one man's take. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on recent developments and what your predictions are for how this will all ultimately play out in the long run. Share your thoughts below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.